Namaste, and welcome to tonight's fireside conversation. My name is Dine, and I'll be your chair for this evening. For those that are unfamiliar with the platform, Vicharamanthan, or VM for short, aims to engage with experts in their field. The name Vicharamanthan is Sanskrit and literally translates to the churning of ideas, which is what we aim to do rather than provide clear-cut answers. Tonight's guest is Prashaanta Singh. Prashaanta is a two-time under-18 archery national champion in Trinidad and Tobago. She has also competed in the Pan American Karate Championships, where she was awarded Most Outstanding Karateka, and she won 10 golds, 7 silvers, and 1 bronze medal. Alongside all of this, she's studying dentistry, and all at the age of 23. Namaste, Prashaanta ji. How are you?
Namaste.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Brilliant. So before we get started and get into depth, why don't you introduce the ladies and gentlemen to your very intense daily routine?
Okay, so my daily routine always changes, and that's because the more I mature, the more responsibilities that I get and the more events that are happening around me. However, once it was competition time, I would have a strict schedule to follow no matter what. So I would always wake up at 3 a.m. and by 2:30 in the morning, I would sit down and do my sadhana. So that will take me till 4 a.m. From 4 a.m. to around 5:40, I would find time to study and work on my academic life. From 5:40 to 6 a.m., I would practice yoga. And from 6 a.m., that's when the sun is now coming out in Trinidad. So it's a great time to see the world wake up. And it's also a really good time to practice for upcoming competitions. So from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., or if the weather was just a little bit nice, I would train a little longer. That I would find that time to train for the competitions. And then I would head to school, and that would take up most of my day and so on. Then I would come back home, and around 4:30 to 5:30, I would take that 1 hour again to train for competition. From 5:30 to 6, I would freshen up, shower, and whatever else. And from 6 to half 6, I would do sadhana once more. So I always found 1 hour in my entire day to do sadhana. And then by 7:30, I was asleep and ready to follow my routine all over again.
Okay, that's very intense. So there'll be some people in the audience that are unaware of what sadhana means. So could you just explain that for people, please?
Sure. So sadhana is a spiritual discipline that I use to balance my entire life, because I have been doing a number of activities, and sitting for 1 hour in my day to just focus on a mantra rather than all the external issues that I may have been having helped me better perform and solve those external problems. So sadhana varies for different people. When I was at a young age and my parents first introduced me to sadhana, they did it by doing japa with me. So I would have a japa mala, rudraksh mala, and I would constantly say Om Namah Shivaya, do 1 round every day, twice a day, and then with them. Then eventually they took a step back and they was like, you can do it on your own now. And then from there, they built on it. So they introduced me to sadhana, where you sit down and you meditate. You just close your eyes and you focus on one mantra. So I started off with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I worked my way up until I could do it for 30 minutes. In sadhana, when you're focusing on that one mantra, you remove any other thoughts that may be coming to your mind, and you just focus there. Be in the moment and be present with that one mantra as your thought. That's how I did my sadhana, but I am aware that there are different ways to perform sadhana. This is what worked for me.
Okay. So I just want to clarify then. So when you recite this mantra, is it just the words that you're focusing on, or is there a certain concept or a meaning that you're thinking about?
No, I'm just focusing on chanting that mantra continuously. And maybe if I wanted to, I would focus on that image of Bhagwan that I had in mind. So for example, the mantra that I recited was Om Namah Shivaya. I would think of Bhagwan Shiva and create my own form for him. So I had a picture to look at. It would help increase my focus on sadhana.
Okay. And do you ever use your like the sadhana technique in sports? Like, would you say before a fight, for example, in karate?
Yeah, I would do that same thing. That's exactly as you said it. So just before I had to go into competitions and so on the morning, I would do my sadhana. I would bow to Bhagwan on the Devasthan. Then I would bow to my parents' feet, give them a hug, and I would go off to war. That's how I saw it. I felt like I equated it to a soldier going off to war because it gave me this feeling that I had to be the best that I can be on this particular day. Whenever just before I knew I had to perform a kata or do kumite, I would chant my guru mantra and I would talk to my guru, Swami Avdeshananda Giriji Maharaj. I would talk to him and be like, Guruji, wherever you are, please help me. Please assist me in any way that you can. And at that point, I knew that I could only give my best. Everything else was up in the air.
That's brilliant. Right, so let's take a step back for a second then. You've been competing for quite a while, right? Or you've been doing karate for quite a while. Exactly how long have you been competing for, right? Because this schedule that you follow is very intense. So have you been doing this for a few years? And if so, how have you kept it up?
I've been doing it for a few years and only when I was competing. However, now that I'm in medical school, I find like this schedule is not enough. So I tend to wake up at 2 a.m. instead and start studying. Yes.
I know some people that go to bed at 2 a.m.
I'm not one of those. I'm a morning person, but it's whatever works for that
Right.
individual. In my case, I thought it was important that I had a head start in my morning, simply because throughout the day, once everyone was waking up, there may be constant disturbances or things that kept popping up. But that was the time frame that I knew I had to myself, so I can use it wisely.
And is this every day?
Yes, this would have been every day once I was competing. If I wasn't competing, I would not see the need to wake up so early.
Yeah.
But now that I am in medical school, I see it really important that I get a head start with my education, so I find more time to study.
Okay, that's intense. Right. Okay. So, what effect have you seen on like with karate and archery? Have they affected your study, like positively or negatively? Is there a relationship between the two?
I would like to say the relationship between physical education as well as academic education is an important link because academic is more mental in my case, and then karate and archery, they would have been the physical aspect. So it's important to not just be mentally healthy, but to also be physically healthy because they go hand in hand. And I actually remember a quote that I saw on Instagram from Swami Rama. He said, physical health is important, mental health is also important, but your spiritual health is the most important. And I mean, to me, if a Swami can say something like that, then doing something like sadhana or yoga, practicing it regularly means that you're going to enhance both your mental and physical well-being.
That's brilliant. So what do your coaches, do your coaches know that you're using this sadhana practice to improve your performance? And what do they think about it?
I've never really talked about sadhana outside of my parents and brother because I don't know of much people who do it. So the fact that I'm talking to you about it, it's a little bit new to me because I've always kept it as something personal and a part of my morning routine, which is very private for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I also see like me talking about sadhana is important for the world to know and hope that they as well can better themselves, whoever is looking on at this conversation. because after seeing all the benefits of sadhana, I think the world should know about it too.
Yeah, for sure. Because so there's a boxing lightweight champion now called Vasily Lomachenko from Ukraine, and he uses sports psychology to improve his ability to deal with pressure in the ring and ability to think a few steps ahead, right? And I was just wondering if you think it'd be interesting, or it would be useful for like high level competitors to be using something like sadhana in their daily routine.
Of course, not even high level competitors, anyone of any age, finding that time to focus on your spirituality helps enhance everything else. It doesn't matter the field that you're in, because even when I'm not competing, I am still doing sadhana. So that shows that it's not just meant for the academic, for the sporting world, but for those in academics or just about anything.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So you said your parents taught you sadhana, right? And they also got you into sports. This is really different from the normal stereotype that a lot of people have about Indian parents, right? They'll say, "Oh yeah, Indian parents always want their kids to be doctors and lawyers and whatnot." But your parents got you into sports. Did your parents do sports when they were younger? Like, what's different about them?
So my father did do sports when he was younger, but all they did was ask me. They always asked me whether I wanted to do archery or karate, dancing, swimming. They made sure that I gave consent.
Yeah.
They all, and even at a tender age, them asking me had a huge impact on me. That means that at this point, because I agreed to do archery and karate and compete in tournaments, I am responsible for every action that I take because it's up to me to perform well in the competition. My parents were always very open-minded. They did not believe that doing academics alone is important. So they wanted me to become well-rounded. And I guess based on my decisions from a young age, I guess I wanted to become well-rounded as well. Because at the time, I didn't really see it as important. I just thought, wow, karate, it's so cool. Let me try it. But now that I've matured, I'm really glad that I did all these things from a young age because I just see it. I just see myself doing it in real life sometimes all of a sudden. And it's a nice experience knowing that you've gone through all that. That means anything that is ahead of you, you're capable of handling it.
So because there are a lot of athletes that they don't have that family support, right? They have to support themselves in their journey to get better. What's it like having that family support in your both academic and athletic life?
It's probably one of the most important things that I could ask for, and I'm very thankful to my parents. They were always introducing me to the right association, the right company, wise people. And even if they did not know how to help me, they would find people who were more experienced and could assist me. And I was always so grateful for that because that meant that no matter what, I had someone that I can rely on. However, while I may have their support, that does not mean they didn't train me to stand on my own 2 feet. They brought me up with this mentality that, yes, you will have our support, but you should be able to be completely independent if circumstances allow that.
Yeah.
So I would say for someone who does not have that family support, you are your own best friend or worst enemy. You can encourage yourself to do whatever activity you want. I actually can think of a quote from Sadhguru that I really like, Sadhguru Jagi Vasudev. He said, "You are 100% responsible for the life that you want. Therefore, you are capable of creating it." Powerful words, if you ask me.
Very powerful. Okay, so this is interesting, right? So there's this element of individual responsibility that you're talking about. So given your very intense schedule, your successful successes, has this influenced your understanding of your Hindu identity? Do you relate more to different stories that you've been told when you were younger? are you aware of different concepts that you never would have been aware of? Like, is there a relationship between sports and improving, how you understand something like sadhana?
So from a young age, my parents, they took my brother and I to Mandir. And at the Hindu Prachar Kendra, they have a 2-month camp where they teach us about the Ramayana and acting and develop our communication skills, which is probably why I'm able to speak here today. And at the Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh camps, I also learned these little things. And with that, I learned more about my Hindu Dharma because my parents, they knew they had their own limitations. So they sent me to places where I would gain more knowledge. And because I got so much information about the Ramayana and a deeper understanding of the Mahabharata, when I was competing, I would draw reference to them. My parents would always tell me, if ever you have a problem related to the Ramayana, or just take a step back and look at the Ramayana on the whole, Ramayana and Mahabharata. So I found myself doing that a lot in competition because in archery competitions, bows are very expensive. So while I thought I would have the best equipment at the time, someone else would have more advanced technology and it could set you at a disadvantage. But then I would recall the story of the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, the Pandavas and Kauravas, they went to war. But the Pandavas had far less resources as well as equipment when fighting against the Kauravas, yet they managed to win. So I always thought to myself, you know what, if they can do it, so can I, because these people are my ancestors. So who am I to perform any less? And it just so happens that I won the competition.
Brilliant.
And I also saw that in the Ramayana, I would relate my problems to what Sri Ram was going through. Many times when you're competing, you think you can't do it all because I'd probably be studying for an upcoming exams. I'd have a competition coming up at the same time. And then there could be external issues happening. And it can be overwhelming. But thinking about Sri Ram would really help me because Sri Ram was exiled. He got taken away from his home. Sorry, sent away from his home. His wife got kidnapped. He had an army of monkeys. He had to fight Ravan. I mean, if he can go through all that and he did it with so much grace, then I can do the same. And all of a sudden, whatever problems I seem to be having seemed very, very small. So I relating my life to what other people went through was an important part to help me keep going.
Yeah, that perspective is really important. Seeing other people have bigger problems. There's a UFC fighter. It's called George St. Pierre. He has one of the greatest of all time. He has the exact same mentality that to deal with his nerves before a fight, he just realizes that it's not a big deal, right? And then you can stay calm during the fight. So this talk is titled "The Roadmap to Success," right? What does success mean to you, and do you think it's different for other people?
What success would mean to me is being the best person that you can be in all of your glory. But everyone's capabilities is different. So while I may think my success is just being the best that I can be and performing the best that I can be, someone else's success might just be to get 100% or a gold medal. But how I was taught from a young age is that you give your best and that is success. And for me to give my best, that's what got me into the scheduling. So I would get up early and doing sadhana and being more disciplined than normal just to achieve this.
That's cool. So I want to get on to sort of talk a little bit more about training, right? Have you ever had a serious injury? And if so, how did you deal with it?
Okay, I can draw a reference to this one particular competition. I was training for my second archery competition and I was training intensely. Usually in 1 hour, I'm able to shoot 36 arrows. I was shooting 2 hours a day and so on. I was basically overshooting, for lack of a better term. And it got to the point where my shoulder started paining so much the day before the competition. Yeah. So it was hurting me a lot more mentally because I went to my coach and I thought, well, I mean, I'm in so much pain. What do I do? And he said, it's up to you. You can do whatever you want. And that day I went home, I was crying a lot because for me, it felt like I worked so hard for so many months
Mm.
to end up with this the day before the competition. Why couldn't this happen to me the day after a
Yeah.
competition? Or maybe the following week or something? Why at this point? So when I went home, I just did my sadhana. I talked to my parents and I said, I still want to compete. For some reason, I still wanted to compete. And I think I drew that from the Ramayana and Mahabharata and doing sadhana. I drew that energy from inside of me. So I went to the competition with my hand in a sling. And every time it was time to compete, I would take it off and I would shoot. And I ended up getting first place that competition.
I'd be so intimidated if someone walked in an archery competition with a sling and then got first.
At the time, I didn't really think about anything else. I just
Mm.
focused on performing my best because at that point, that was the most that I can do. And when I received my prize, I actually had my hand in a sling while receiving this trophy. And it was
That's incredible.
hilarious for me.
Okay. So what about, like, have you ever had like a really sort of rough day in training? Like, have you ever had a day in training where everything's just going wrong? Like, for example, in sparring, you just had a day where you're just not landing the shot. And how do you deal with that frustration?
Right. I have another memory on that. So,
Okay.
with respect to karate, I was preparing for an international competition. So, I knew if I had to represent my country, I had to go all out to win. And on this particular day in dojo, my sensei, he kept training me in kumite, in sparring. So, I was with my colleague, and for some reason, no matter what, I could not seem to properly attack him or defend myself. He kept getting to me. And I was going round after round in sparring. And each time I was mentally hijacking myself, saying that you're not capable of representing your country. Trinidad and Tobago would be ashamed of you. You can't do this to yourself. And seeing those negative words to myself, I just broke down in the middle of fighting, went on my knees and cried. I couldn't stop crying. So my sensei that day, he stopped training for me and he said, go home. You need to be at home right now. So when I went home, I did my sadhana and I cleared my mind. That's that's the effect that sadhana had at the time after such a rough day.
Mm.
And then I went back to training the very next day like nothing ever happened.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually quite powerful, right? Because that shows that that's a technique that everybody can take away, right? It's got like nearly
Yeah.
instant results if you're good at it.
Even if you
Okay.
can't focus enough to do sadhana on such a rough day,
Mm.
do yoga first and let your body and mind relax more. Focus on your breathing and then do sadhana. This technique I was taught by Mayaji from the Hindu Prashar Kendra. She told me about it, and there were a few times where it was too rough to just go straight into sadhana. So I
Yeah.
would follow that, and it helped out.
Okay. That's nice. Right. So then moving on a little bit, then let's say talking about advice for like other people. For like a youngster, trying to get motivated and trying to be successful, what would you say to them?
I would say never give up. You don't know your capabilities until you've actually tried it. And that's the most that you can do. Give your best.
Mm, that's interesting. And is there anything like, for example, I'm a taekwondo coach, right? And I see that with some of my students, they love sparring, right? Everyone loves sparring, right? Because it's high energy and you get to fight, but no one likes strength and conditioning at all. No one likes doing the squats and doing the push-ups. Is there anything about training that you don't like, or is it just all the same at this point?
I think the part about training that I did not like was sparring. I enjoyed kata, but kumite, I never really cared for it because from a young age, I was brought up with non-violence. So I think it got inculcated into me that I shouldn't be fighting this person. That does not mean I did not fight them. I did fight.
Yeah.
But I never really cared for it. I think it's because I related my katas to Odissi dancing. It came more naturally to me because a kata was a dance without music. That's how I thought. I found a way to relate to what I did know to help me. But in kumite, it was never something that I enjoyed. However, I understand that people would get very excited to spar and so on. As someone who has been doing sadhana, I've always gone into a ring very calm.
Okay.
I was never hyped up or on adrenaline and so on. I was very focused on my opponents, executing when necessary, blocking when needed. But most of all, I had this sense of inner peace and calmness with me while fighting. I never saw putting your emotions into a fight as a good thing. Because if I was to fight based on my emotions, then every single time I fight, I would fight differently. But if you have this tranquility continuously with you while fighting, you have something to be based on.
That's brilliant. Because in Zen philosophy, so there's this book written by this samurai called Miyamoto Musashi. And at the end, he talks about something called empty mind, or in Japanese called mushin. And it's exactly what you're talking about, which is free from emotion. You're fighting with that mentality. And that's the goal of all martial artists, right? So again, so I'm as a coach, right? How would I help my students reach this state of mind, right? Like, how could I implement sadhana into like daily training?
Introduce yoga to them and then
Okay.
introduce meditation into their lives and make it a daily practice for them. It has to be something that they have to work on their own. The most that you can do is introduce it to them. Hopefully, they will take your advice because it works.
Yeah. Cool. And do you think it'd be helpful in schools, like for students?
Oh, sadhana and yoga?
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's so important that you do sadhana every morning and every evening because speaking based on my own experiences, like sometimes school can be very taxing on you. You can go into depression or have extreme anxiety. But if you were to just clear your mind and just be calm for that 1 hour in the day, it would impact you greatly throughout your day because you're starting your day off by being calm and you're ending your day off by being calm.
Okay.
And I would also see it necessary that you do sadhana and yoga because it'll make you become more calm, focused, and disciplined, and you'll find yourself naturally falling into a productive routine. So when I was competing, I didn't even realize I had a routine.
Okay.
It did not occur to me. It's only when I recently looked back and reflected on what I did. I thought to myself, this whole time I thought I could never work with a routine, and then I realized all my life I was working with a routine. I just did not know it. And I think it's because of doing sadhana at a specific time every day and doing yoga as well.
That's very powerful. Okay, so moving on to the audience Q&A, right? I want names here, but so we've got the first question is, how do you decide what your goals are and what to focus on?
You decide what your goals are based on how important it is to you.
Okay.
If you think competing, if you think an upcoming competition or a specific exam is important to you, then you would start to prepare for it. If it was just something that you can slack off with, then you wouldn't put your best foot forward. That depends on the individual and the circumstances that they are going through at the time. I can't speak personally on that because each individual is different.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got one from Ravi Ladva and one from Sachin, and they're very similar. So what price do you have to pay for success at this young age? And then Ravi Aladva is asking, did it affect your social life?
So the first question, the price that I had to pay at the time was lack of a normal person's family quality time. Most of family quality time involves sitting at a dinner table and eating. My quality time was in between classes. My parents, they would speak to me and they would talk to me about the Mahabharata and the Ramayana and whatever knowledge that they had learned in the ashram. That was my family quality time. While it wasn't in a traditional sense, how families spend time together, it was what I needed at the time. So at a young age, I thought, wow, why can't we just be like any regular family and do these things? But now that I look back, I am so thankful that they found a way to include family time in the most crazy circumstances.
Yeah.
Every little talk with them, every ask for support, every random hug that I gave them or bow to their feet or tell them I love you, that was my family time. So
that's amazing.
I think now that I look back, I don't think I did not spend quality time with them. I did, but we did it in our way.
And did it affect your social life at all?
No, it didn't affect my social life at all. As a matter of fact, I think I gained more people and more colleagues and interacted with a lot more, knowing that I was in so many different fields at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, my cousins were also involved in some of these sports. So it made family time nicer, knowing that you had cousins that were there. Yeah.
That's lovely. All right. We got Gaurang here. How important are role models and mentors in your life?
Very important. When you're at your lowest, or you can't think of a more impossible circumstance to be in, you can always reflect on that person. Sometimes when I find myself in a deeply stressful situation, I would look up talks on Sadhguru or Swamis who could better advise me, or I would simply talk to my parents or my brother. I all have this, I understand that if I need help, I should seek it.
That's brilliant. Okay. And we got Akshaya, and we haven't talked about this, but does your dance help you in the world of sports?
Yes, it does.
Dancing.
So I started dancing from a very young age, and that helped me a lot with karate because it developed my lower body strength. And then in archery, I realized that the same back muscles that I was using continuously in Odissi dancing were the same ones that were necessary in archery. So it somehow was very interlinked and contributed really well to the two sports that I was competing in.
That's brilliant. Okay. And so you mentioned earlier that kata was like a dance with no music, but we forgot to define kata. Like you and I are familiar, but maybe not everyone in the audience, right? So could you explain kata to the audience?
So a kata is a series of techniques, attack and defense, that is used for multiple attackers. That's how I would define it. I don't know if you have a definition as well.
It'll be similar. I think kata is very, very flexible in terms of its application. But I really like the fact that you likened it to a dance, because that sort of takes the aggression out of martial arts, which is interesting. Yeah. We have Sachin, and it's a very pertinent question. What do you fear?
What do I fear?
Yeah.
I can see my friends are going to taunt me with this one, but the only thing that I really fear is spiders. Nothing else.
Spiders?
That's it.
Okay, so to beat you in a karate competition, it's got to bring a spider on my glove, right?
No, I'll drop kick you.
Okay. Okay, and Kajol has said, has the discipline that you've developed through your sporting career increased your resilience in other aspects of your life?
Yes, I think so. I see it happening as of right now, especially being in university. Having this disciplined mindset with my sports enhanced how disciplined I become with my academic life.
Mm.
Because, like I said before, I am getting up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., sometimes 1 in the morning just to get a head start to start studying because it's so much work to cover in such a small amount of time that I'm thankful I could rely on my past experiences to help me. So much so that now I have a monthly schedule, a weekly schedule, a daily schedule, and a to do list. And I
Wow.
try my best to follow it as much as is possible.
Okay. And we have Ravi. Do you have any regrets?
I have no regrets.
That's amazing. That's what every.
why
That's
why should you regret something? Everything was brought to you and taken away from you to make you who you are today, and it will continuously happen in your life. It's
yeah.
how you learn from the lesson that it was teaching you.
That's a powerful outlook. I just completely ruins that question. Okay. And we got Dina. Does this success affect your relationship with your friends? Is anybody ever jealous or envious, or have you ever faced that?
Of course, I've seen people who are jealous of me and who's showed me a lot of discrimination, but
Okay.
in the event that I have absolutely no one to talk to, I have myself.
Yeah.
I am my own best friend. Sadhguru, again, he has this saying: if you are by yourself and you feel lonely, then you are bad company. Something along those lines. So if you can't tolerate your own personality, why would you inflict it on others? And another thing is, when I was with my friends and so on, I never really brought up whatever was happening in my life. I was happy to just be in their company.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I mean, I'll be honest. All I can talk about is martial arts. My friends.
No,
Yeah.
being from grooming from young, I would go
Mm.
to Mandir and so on. And in Mandir, for the training, you just had to interact with people as young as 5 years old to those as old as in their 60s. So having that ability to communicate with just about anyone meant that it didn't matter who I was talking to. I can be myself and I can still have an amazing conversation with that person.
That's brilliant. Yeah, because I think some athletes, especially, lose their just end up talking about the one thing and forget the rest
Um,
of the world. That's brilliant. Okay, and we got a summit. Do you ever worry about burning out?
I never have to worry about burning out because after so many years of developing myself
Mm.
and having people who have developed me, I can I am aware of when I feel burnt out. So I know what to do if I feel the onset of a burnout. I never I try my best not to reach the point where I am burnt out. I start working on it right away. Actually, I got this technique as well from Swami Sarveshananda ji. I went to an ashram last year. For two
Mm.
months, I spent my time there. And in the ashram, one of the trainings, one of the workshops that he did with us was journaling. And at first, I thought, journaling, really? Why is this so important? But once I humbled myself, he spoke more about journaling, where you're aware of who you really are, of what you're doing. So in this form of journaling, he said, put all your safe positive tendencies, so everything that you did good today, and all your negative unwanted streaks on the next side, all the things that you need to work on. So for example, my safe positive tendencies would be I helped someone out in need, and for my negative streaks would be I did not do sadhana on this particular morning. And then underneath, you have something called negative triggers. So with the negative triggers, you have to ask yourself, why did you do that negative streak? What caused
Mm.
you to do it? So in my case, why did I not do sadhana? Because I felt lazy. I was not motivated. I couldn't care less. I was not giving it the importance that sadhana deserves. And then after a while, so after an entire year of self-journaling, I can tell you of all the negative traits that I need to work on. And every day after journaling, it's basically pouring your mind onto pen and paper, where you get to see exactly how you did. If you had so many things going on, then I would know for sure that a burnout is coming. So I would counteract that by doing what I do when I feel slightly overwhelmed or extremely sad.
That's very
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, I think I might start implementing that with my life. Okay, so for your closing remarks then, what message would you like to leave for everyone? What would you want people to take away from your experiences?
I would say bloom into the flower that you were meant to be by continuously doing sadhana and yoga. Don't try to be like me. Try to find what worked for you, because each and every person is unique.
That's beautiful. Okay, so that was a brilliant account of sort of Prashaanta Ji's life and her successes. There's definitely a bunch of practical tools that we can use there. I'm definitely going to try and implement a few. I'm not waking up at 1 a.m., I'll be honest. Okay, and so namaste, Prashaanta Ji. We've all definitely learned a lot. Thank you everyone for watching tonight's fireside conversation. I hope everyone now can take away these tools and use them in their own personal lives. Our audience and our well-wishers are what sustain Vicharamanthan. So to allow us to continue our work, please visit www.vicharamanthan.org. Join us for our next event, The Death of Ideas, How Universities Are Failing Future Generations. And this will be on October 15th. Have a great weekend and namaste.